So, I'm gonna ask you some personal questions. Are you ready?
I guess so.
Right. Well, we'll kind of shift the gears a little bit. So, if you could give yourself some advice, whether it be legal advice or advice in general, what would you give yourself, Gerard Virgo?
Going back on it, and over the years, I would think that the advice I'd probably would give myself is, maybe stop and enjoy a little bit more of life. I think the older I've gotten, I'm 48 now, that I realize that it's a short life, and cherish the moments you have with your kids when they're young. Spend more time, doing those things. I read a Facebook post the other day, and it was geared toward lawyers. I think it said something like on the tombstone, nobody's going to see on your tombstone or say at your funeral how many motions you won. And I think as a lawyer, if you're passionate about your topic, it can become consuming. I think that happens to a lot of us as lawyers. And I think that, really, I think recently there's been a lot more mindfulness of after certain hours, not looking at the phone, not checking the emails, and a little bit more toward like mental health, personal relationships,
Hmm.
and maybe I guess what they call work life balance now is a new term. But I think that's, some advice I would give myself going back on it. Not really like legal advice, but to do my job better, I think I would have probably, everybody's got college loans. I doubt I could have afforded this, but taking more psychology and more accounting courses if I knew I was going to be a family law attorney, because I do think that, being able to offer more in those regards would be really beneficial to our clients. I feel like I've gotten an alleyway degree in psychology and accounting, the hard school knocks of learning through family law, but that's something I would have done because family law really does affect children's psychology. You got the mental stress and the psychological impact it's having on your client.
Hmm.
And then, of course, with equitable distribution, alimony, those things, I think, really, accounting is high up there. And I work with an accountant a lot in a lot of the higher asset cases, and I've learned the language, but just being better at that stuff would make me better at my job. I
Hmm.
think if I had it all over do again, I would have maybe before kids taken some more classes in those to just bolster up my understanding and learning.
That's interesting that you should say that because I do feel as if my observations throughout the office that everyone here wears so many hats. Like you said, you're playing counselor, you're playing accountant, you're playing nurse, it's the roles are endless. So you really do have to be adaptable to that case. And like you've said over and over, it's not just what's on the docket. There's families there and each one is so different.
Yeah, and look, as a lawyer, our profession, our ethics is of course on, legal results,
Hmm.
and it's on, representing your client in court and objecting and filing the right paperwork and all those things. But in family law, I think it's a lot of focus on the person.
Absolutely.
Every person has a different need. And I'm not talking about a legal need, but an emotional need of did they really want this? Are they the
Mhm.
spouse that didn't want this to happen? Are they are they have they reached the realization that it needs to happen, but they're coping with less time with their children because no time sharing plans really give you what you truly want, which would be to see your kids 100% of the time. It's a lot of factors, and honestly, I think, the longer I do it, it's just spending more time with the client and trying to get to know 'em.
Sure, and that's one of the things you've always said since I've known you is that these are all really good people. They're just going through the most terrible times in their lives. And you see that and but going back to what you said about the work-life balance, and I'm gonna rat her out for a moment. Our business manager, we were going over the calendar and she said, "Wait a minute, is he really going to be out? Is he really going to be out?" And, it was like, yeah, yeah, he is because, every July we take a family trip. And, I often joke that, even in the hospital or if you're getting blood work done or, your phone is there and you truly are exceptional with that. And I've always said that as your wife, I see it 24/7 how you are there for clients. I mean, we're on an anniversary trip and you're on the phone in the pool, making sure, but you always make that a priority. And without a doubt, you're always there. I do think that sometimes taking a couple moments, like I know that we've had dinner and it's been, okay, put your phone down because, uh, you know,
I
uh,
didn't always say I lived up to it. I didn't
no,
always say I lived up to it.
down, but hey, the AP scores are in and somebody has something to tell you or, put it down. But or even, joking with you and I in our marriage. And I'll say, well, did I lose you? I mean, how many times a week do I say that? And you're like, no, I'm right here. I'm right here. But so and so just had this order. Da, 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 da. And it's the lawyer talk. And it's like, okay. And then once I realize that there's a serious issue that someone's child is being taken away across the state line or I do get those sense of urgencies and emergencies. And obviously that goes with the fact how you do put the clients first.
Well,
But
it's like it's hard. It's hard to balance both. I don't care who you are. It's hard to balance both because you love your family and you love your time with your family and that's always your priority. But you have people who really they hired you to represent them on these cases. They put their trust in you and that's something I take very serious that that they put their trust in me and no matter what the facts are or how it shakes out when I go to bed at night I want to be able to put my head to the pillow knowing I gave it everything I could have given it
absolutely.
on that case and that I've thought about everything and if anybody knows me I'm a kind of a quiet normally introspective guy
Mhm.
and I'll be thinking, lots of times in my own head, trying the case numerous different ways or thinking what the comebacks are going to be from the other side,
Mhm.
and living in your own head with those. I mean, then, there's always cases that you've won that you were surprised you won.
Mhm.
And there are cases you thought you were sure to win and you didn't win. And then, dealing with those, like those do haunt you, no matter who you are. If any good lawyer, football coach, whatever you are, you learn from those events and try to get better and better with every attempt that you make at it. And
Mhm.
I had a law school professor. I never will forget this. He was an older guy. He was up at the podium. It was during our orientation. Everybody in the room is scared to death of what did I get myself into? And he said, the law is a jealous mistress. Everybody's looking at him like, what is this old guy talking about? And what does he mean by this? And after practicing 20 years, it's a jealous mistress. If you take a vacation, yes, you'll be gone from the office, but those cases will be progressing without you. Things will be happening, life events will be occurring. And when you come back from the vacation, you're going to have to address them. So, personally, I kind of live life with the approach of, if it's a small fire in the beginning, it's a little brush fire,
Mhm.
go run to the fire and put it out
Mhm.
before it becomes an inferno.